Welcome back to the After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco. Today with me as co-host, I got Joey, and we have Spotty Dog Books Ale from Hudson, New York, joined with Alan and Kelley. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Good. How are you?
We're pretty good. It's we're catching a little bit of the hurricane here. It's starting to storm a bit, so
Yep, just a tad bit.
yeah, it's not too bad though. So one of the great things about Spotty Dog is that I came across you guys on the internet and I was like, wow, this is like a really unique concept that it's a bookstore and it's also a place where you guys serve beverages, alcoholic. So let's start there. What was the inspiration for that?
Well, we sort of lucked into that concept. I can't say we were all so much genius on that. It was that our building that we're in, which is a historic firehouse, was purchased by my Uncle Neil, who owns the C.H. Evans Brewing at the Albany Pump Station, which is a wonderful brew pub in Albany, New York. And he wanted to do another location in Hudson because that was where the family brew was originally made, pre-Prohibition. And he just got too busy with his business in Albany to be able to make the magic happen again in Hudson. And so he offered us the building because we had an existing art supply business on Warren Street in Hudson. He said, if I gave you this building to use, what would you do? And Alan said, well, we would open a bookstore. Because people would come to the art supply store and say, now we found the art supplies, we're ready. Where's the bookstore? And we'd be like, no bookstore here. And so he said, a bookstore. And my uncle said, well, how about a bookstore with beer? And we said, well, okay, why not? And we'll just throw the art supplies in the back and it'll all be in one building. And sure, what the hell? And that's how we ended up in the spot we are now.
What type of crowd would you say comes to a bookstore and bar combination? As Spotty Dog, like what is your general customer? Is it college students, older people?
So our typical customers, we're a rural county about 2 hours north of New York City. So there are a lot of second homeowners, usually moneyed and college educated. There are a lot of retirees in town and people who have lived here all their lives and grown up here. And also, we're near Bard College that's in Annandale, about 30 minutes south of us. So there are a lot of college students from the Bard area and 30 miles north of us from Albany. Am I missing anything else? Local
smart people.
Smart people, yeah.
Smart, well-read people.
And well-behaved, usually.
Mostly, yeah. But yeah.
That's good. At least you guys aren't like a dive bar or something. You get some pretty rowdy crowds in there.
It happens now and then, but it sticks out like a sore thumb when it does happen. It's usually self-policing.
Yeah. And we just only have a tavern license, so we're not serving shots or really powerful cocktails, so people can usually rein it in.
Yeah. So in New York State, a tavern license is beer and wine only, and kombucha and sake, things like that.
Gotcha. So can people just come in and rent a book and grab a beer and then sit down and read?
Yep. They can peruse our shelves, grab a book, read it, buy the book.
Put the book back on the shelf. We'd like them to buy it.
Yeah, it's a rare place where a mom or dad can come with their kids, sit at the bar with their kid. The kid can have a root beer or a juice. Dad can have a beer, and they can read kids' books and read books and make a stack and then buy them when they're done. It's pretty great.
That's pretty sweet. Do most of the people that come in expect you guys to have a pretty vast knowledge of the books that you hold? So like someone come up and be like, oh yeah, I just read this book from the fourth aisle on the 8th shelf. Can you tell me more about it? Something like that.
I get asked all the time, have you read all of these books? And literally in our store, there's 10,000 books. So it's like, no, I have not read every one of these books.
Getting around to it.
Yeah, I'm trying, but no.
We get employees who specialize in certain areas. So somebody will be an expert on John Cheever. Somebody will be an expert on kids' books like Kelley. Somebody else will be an expert on
graphic novels
or LGBT literature and
poetry. Thank God somebody's good at poetry because I'm not.
Yeah. So we were at a party once and with our neighbors, and we talked to these people about our store, and then they left, and our neighbors said, they were good friends of ours, and they said, what'd you say to them? We said, what? They were really disappointed in you. We said, why? And they said, well, you owned a bookstore, and they were excited to meet you because they wanted to talk literature. And you guys like didn't kind of take the bait. And I'm just thinking, and I told him, dude, the last book I read was about zombies. So we're not elbow patch cocktail party people with master degrees in literature. We're bar owners, and it's a it's a wide open field for any kind of book for anyone. So it's pretty democratic and non-exclusive.
What is your guys' favorite books if you had to choose?
Oh, come on. That's like choosing your favorite child.
Easy.
I can tell you books I've enjoyed that I've read lately. I could tell you some of my favorite authors. Like one of my favorite authors is Nick Hornby, who you might know from, even if you haven't read him, from the movies About a Boy, High Fidelity. It's just very wonderfully written British humor. So he's lovely. I've come to a new respect for Dr. Seuss after reading it to my children, because I think as a child you love it, but as you read it when you're an adult, you're like, oh my God, this guy was a genius.
Yeah, I love, as far as literature goes, I love Henry Miller. He's more modern, but stuff is great. I had a New Year's resolution this year to read all of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. So I'm in the middle of that, and it's to really appreciate it. It takes a while. So I'm doing that in between other books. But God, what I love is walking around the store and just staring at the shelves and pulling on a book and say, oh, this looks interesting, and then bring it home. So I can't say that I have a favorite. I go from thrillers in the zombie genre to to a little of everything.
You read a lot of history.
Yeah, a lot of history when I can.
And I read a lot of memoir.
For a good biography.
I don't know. We just kind of read everything. There's not a favorite.
Yeah, our bedroom, at last count, we had about just under 200 books in stacks, because you get advanced reader copies of books. We call them ARCs, A-R-C, and it's a book usually with typos, not fully edited, but it's almost there, and it's an upcoming book, and you get to read it before anyone else. So, for example, we got The Hunger Games before anybody got it, and we're like, oh, this is really amazing. Can't wait till this comes out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The Hunger Games is actually one of my favorite books I've ever read.
So good.
I read like all of them in each day they came out in that day. I just had to. You read like 10 pages, you're like just addicted to them.
Did you read the new one?
I haven't read the very newest one, no, but all the other ones.
Get going.
Yeah, Kelley can
all right.
Way behind.
Yeah.
Okay, right after this call, I'll start.
All right, good.
We're compiling a list now, so we got some books to read, and then also there's a movie I still need to watch that you guys recommended last time.
I'm so interested in your take on the movie because of
what movie was it?
This is Spinal Tap, the mockumentary.
Yep.
I have to watch that then.
Yeah, I know.
Some of the jokes have been done so much since that movie where they originated, and I'm wondering if it's funny to you guys. So I can't wait to hear your reaction. You might hate it, and that's cool. I would love to hear that.
How old were you, Joey, when the Hunger Games books came out?
I don't even know.
You had to be like high school.
I had to be like,
right?
I don't even think then. I had to be 13 when I read the first one.
Oh,
13 or 14. How long ago did the first one come out? I had to be
2009. That was the arc. That was when Evangeline was born.
Well, yeah, yep. Evangeline was born, so probably 2009. 2009?
Yeah, I was gonna say so I was about. It may have been like 6th, 7th grade then.
This is good. We'll start an ongoing list of all the media that we should watch, and we'll compare our viewpoints on them.
Yeah, guys. Honestly, I didn't even know that new book came out. I just searched it on my phone. I had no clue it came out until you just said something. So I'm super excited to go and read that.
You said it delivers, right?
What? I haven't read it yet either, but a friend of ours read it and she was like, I don't know. But then she was like, oh my God, it's amazing. It's just as good as the other ones. I'm like, oh, all right. There you have it.
Awesome.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Alan, you mentioned that you can just go around the bookstore and find books that look cool and you've never seen before. What is the process of getting books on shelves and bringing in, constantly new supply every day?
It's a great question because it's one of the non-glamorous things about running a bookstore.
So I would say for our stock, we are a combination of what we and our staff like in terms of books. what my sales representatives from my different publishers recommend to bring in, and then what our very smart customers like. Because if we don't know that something's coming out, you can believe my customers will know and they will tell me. So, yeah, we've gotten really great things that have, I would have never known about just because our clientele knows books. So we're very lucky that way. And then the other thing is it's constantly, there's every season, there's new books. And it is very hard to keep up sometimes. But yeah, it's a constant battle to keep the shelves, from getting stale and having things live there forever that really don't need to be there. And then B, getting the new titles and making sure they're there on time.
Right on. And if a book doesn't do so well and it's stale, what do you guys do with that book? Do you guys donate it or half off?
We can put it on sale, or the book industry is one of the very few industries in retail where you can return things that don't sell.
Did not know that.
Well, the reason that is because otherwise, everybody's shelves will be full of John Grisham and Hunger Games and nothing else. So what the book industry originally did when they allowed returns is they wanted you to be able to take a risk on an author you don't know, or a title you don't know, or a genre that maybe would not be the normal thing. And then if it doesn't work out, you just send it back.
So that sounds great on paper, but you got to pay for the shipping, so you're on the hook for that. And also you have space considerations, so you can't order like crazy. And so you're not in the best position when you're sending everything back and getting credit for it, but it is a benefit of the industry for keeping stock lean and moving things.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we talked about your book inventory. How do you guys manage your alcohol and beer inventory?
Well, we have 12 beers on tap. 2 generally are my uncle's beers from the Albany pump station. 1 generally is Outrage from Crossroads Brewing, which is directly across the river from us. We have 1 tap that's kombucha. We generally have 1 tap that's cider. And then we bring in seasonal cans and, fun things that we can get in cans. We have sake and we have wine just because the people demand it. So we have usually 3 reds, 3 whites, a rosé in season, a champagne on occasion or sparkling. And I keep a bar manager that manages all of that stuff for me.
The beer is all independent breweries. You won't find like Bud Light or Coors Light or anything. There's fans of that beer, and that's great, but we try to get stuff that's preferably local and preferably interesting. It's not always local. Sometimes we get stuff from Colorado or Wisconsin, but we like to have a really diverse set of beers, and they change all the time. So if you come in any given week, you'll see probably 3 different and new beers on tap that went there 2 weeks before or even a week before. So it's always changing, gives people a reason to come back.
Which may be great, except that sometimes people get favorites and it's gone and they're pissed.
Yeah.
But, hey, what can I do?
Yeah, I was actually about to ask, is there any favorites? But it sounds like you guys change it up quite often.
We have staples that don't change. One is Outrage from Crossroads Brewing Company in Athens, New York.
And that's the one, if it's not available, people will be pissed.
That's it's high
so
alcohol,
mad.
Super hoppy, and
delicious.
And delicious.
Kind of a grapefruit finish a little bit, but not like those grapefruit beers or the orange beers that are the thing right now. I wouldn't call it juicy, but I'd say it's got that little sort of a citrusy finish to it. It's delicious. They're wonderfully talented over there. And the Evans ales are always on. But other than that, we seasonally we'll get favorites back. Like every year we debate in October, like, do we get a pumpkin ale this year? Do we? And it's always like, I guess so. And then a bunch of people come and complain, why do you have the pumpkin thing there? And then a bunch of people come and it's like, I'm so excited for the pumpkin beer to be back on tap. So it's like, you can't win.
Right, yeah.
There's haters and everything, except Outrage.
You can't please everybody.
No,
We would put a peach on, and it would be an eighth keg, and oh my god, the thing would be on for 2 months. It's like, come on, will you guys please drink this? You know, beer back.
That's funny.
Yeah,
but sour beers are very popular right now. Well, if we were open and serving beers right now, they'd be popular. But yeah.
So how do you guys change out the sake? Because I know that might be a little different than regular wine or beer.
No, our sake stays pretty stable. The one that always sells is called Bushido, and it's in little cans, and it's cute. So people like it because it's in a little can and it's cute, and probably tastes decent because they keep ordering it. And then is our other one,
Yeah.
and we can serve it hot or cold. But those are pretty stable. That's our regular sakes. And I'm not a sake drinker, but the people that are the sake drinkers really are the sake drinkers.
Yeah, I'm kind of one of those. When I go to sushi, I have to have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 on occasion.
Yeah.
It's great.
It does warm you up.
It does. It really does. Great flavor too.
Yeah.
Do you guys notice if someone walks up to the bar and they're like, all right, I'm gonna take a cider. Can you predict what kind of book they're gonna go get? Are there any like relationships that you see forming there?
That's a good one.
That's funny. I don't think so.
No, and people, I'd say they continually surprise us. Sometimes you get somebody come into a bar and they look like they need a shower, and they have a shirt with the sleeves cut off and a big bushy beard. I'm talking about guys, of course. And then they'll start talking about, they'll bring a book off the shelf and they'll start reading it, and they're reading something in philosophy, but something super educated that you wouldn't expect them to grab. So judgment of people is usually wide open because I'm continually surprised by the people who come through.
That's good to hear. It doesn't get boring.
No.
Yeah, for predictive beer versus books,
No.
I can't think of one instance where there was something, oh yeah, that makes sense.
No.
It's all over the place.
All of it.
Back when you guys had first opened Spotty Dog, when was that, by the way?
June 27th, 2005.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's been a minute. I read that you guys were one of the first 10 bookstores to serve alcohol in the United States, and now it's a pretty popular trend. Do you have people that are like asking for your advice now that are looking to do the same kind of business?
All the time.
Yeah, there were about 6 others other than us in 2005. One was in DC. They were spread around the country, and so we were in kind of uncharted territory. This is pre-social media too, so there was no Facebook. Facebook was a year old at Harvard at this point. There was no Instagram. We geared up and made an email newsletter in our early years. So there wasn't much going on, and independent bookstores at the time, it was an awful time to open an independent bookstore because they were all failing all over the country. The joke in the book industry is how do you make a small fortune in the book industry? Start with a large fortune.
Yeah. So yeah, people are constantly calling and wanting information, and I can give them the very basic, but I'm sure you understand, if you call me from Ohio, I don't know your liquor laws, so it's very hard for me to tell people, oh yeah, just do this or that or the other, because liquor laws aren't, they're so state specific. I can't really tell them. But I tell them it's a good idea. I tell them it works well. I tell them people love it. And it's a great, books are crap markup, but beer's really good markup. So those two things together kind of work out to a normal markup of your whole store. But you also get a wide range of seriousness. And I have started not having time for people that haven't put in any legwork prior to talking to me.
You really do get 2 types of people. The first type are totally squared away. They have their business plan figured out, or if they don't have their business plan figured out, at least they're serious and they have a location, and they're you can tell they're very smart about it in what they're doing, and you kind of know if they're not going to be successful, at least they're going to open on time, and they have a good shot at success. The second time, we'll call and say, yeah, I was thinking of doing this idea in in the town where I live, and what do I do? They don't even have any questions.
Where do you get books from? It's like, all right, nope, I don't have time for this right now.
The book industry is unique also in that there's a lot of camaraderie between bookstores. So there's national and regional organizations where you get together and all the bookstore owners share notes. I'd say 19 out of 20 booksellers are super supportive and helpful to each other. So when we were starting out, a bookseller who owned a bookshop, a really good one that's still open 30 miles away from us, took us out to lunch and said, okay, do you have any questions? And we were competing with her at least 30 miles away. It wasn't in the same town, but we passed that generosity on to others, and they'll continue to do so as well. So it's a really cohesive, tight-knit community that helps each other out.
That's awesome. Talking with other bar owners and restaurant owners, that seems to be a pretty common theme too. Just with like entrepreneurship in general, it's like someone helped me get to where I am now, and most people pay it forward. Like you said, like 19 out of 20 are pretty good people, to say the least. And I guess for the book industry, it's no different, which is good to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and as far as Ohio goes, I don't think I've ever heard of a mixture of a bookstore and a bar. I don't know if it's with our laws or what, but I've been to like the bigger cities, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland and Toledo, and I've never seen one personally.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we helped a guy in Indiana. I know a great one in Colorado.
The Bronx.
There's one in the Bronx, one outside Philly. I know
Rhode Island. We went to dinner
all
with.
the people in Rhode Island. Yeah, we've talked to a lot of people. I wouldn't be surprised if Barnes & Noble is piloting this idea in a couple of stores. So, we've gone mainstream.
Replace a Starbucks with some bars.
Yeah, exactly. It's why not? I mean, the thing is, people want a glass of wine and a book, or a beer and a book. And they want, if you have an event in your store where you're having a reading, people usually bring in that type of thing. So it's like, why not just have it there? Why give it away for free when you can have it there and sell it and people enjoy it? It only makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever run into the issue where people read the entire book before they check out?
No, but we had some spills on new books. One of the worst ones ever was Joey. She took out an entire 4-foot shelf of books because the beer just kind of pooled in the bottom of the shelf. The book sucked it all up.
Nah, we had those people during Winter Walk that ruined the whole poetry section.
Yeah. We had this goofball who was looking at an atlas and he was trying to show us where his girlfriend lived in Southeast Asia, and he circled it with a pen. I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's rare. People are very respectful.
But you know what? If some 17-year-old kid comes in and wants to get a soda and sit in a corner and read a book and put the book back on the shelf because he doesn't want to spend $27 on the new hardcover, yeah, we're pretty tolerant of people who love to read. So yeah, you can do that as long as the book stays in saleable condition and they're not throwing it around. You're welcome to do that.
Very cool. Touching on where you're at in Hudson, how you guys got started, and that you guys have a lot of local breweries that you collaborate with. Do you think that you guys could open a Spotty Dog somewhere else in the United States, maybe like Florida, New York, or not New York, but you guys are already there, like Florida or Georgia or Chicago?
Yes, we could, but will we?
No.
I like how you guys are like 100% on.
But my initial thoughts in our first few years of opening was we could have a series of these, but the infrastructure and the non-glamorous parts of running a store or a chain of stores, and the insurance and the liability
and a bar
and running a bar and the ordering, it would just completely take over our lives. We're entrepreneurial, but this is bricks and mortar, and as you can see, it changes like every 10 years on how viable it is. So we probably wouldn't want to have that big of a spread.
I just, other people local to other communities could do this. I mean, it's not, it won't be a Spotty Dog per se, but it'll be their version of that works in their town. Sure, Barnes & Noble could have a bar in it, but it's still Barnes & Noble, and it's still the same everywhere you go. The nice thing about independent bars and independent bookstores is that when you go to a town and you find that bar or that bookstore that's unique to that place, you love it all the more because it's something new. It's not a place you've ever been. So, I would rather have the local people build what most reflects their unique community. I mean, chain stores are boring. I would rather have people do their own thing in their own town.
So flashing back to a little bit in the past, what did you guys do before you owned Spotty Dog?
I was in the design industry. I'm a graphic designer, so I worked in corporate identity, and then when the .com boom happened in the late '90s, I started designing websites and applications, which I still do today. But I was full time at an insurance company, and then just before we opened the Spotty, I was on my own as a consultant and remained that for about 12 more years. So graphic designer.
Still is.
Yeah.
My degree is in engineering, so I was a safety consultant for a large insurance company, working with Fortune 500 companies for not quite 10 years before we started doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't get my pen and pencil set for my tenure. I escaped before they gave me the pen and pencil.
So we're one of the more safe bookstores, independent bookstores that exist.
Frankie mentioned that your favorite font was Comic Sans.
Oh, I love it. Don't get me started. I'm going to gush about it.
we always joke around with our designer about the same thing. Yeah. He loves it.
Designers, being a designer, designers can be really annoying because we get super uptight about stuff and super serious, and it becomes a big issue. And I'm way more inclusive. So yeah, Comic Sans, or if you look up Cooper, that's another one that is like kind of overused and whatever. But I don't get really emotional about it. If somebody wants to design their flyer or design their logo and has Comic Sans, well, it could look like crap, or if it's the right context, it'll look great. So good for you.
Fair.
But
you do you.
More realistically, like Helvetica, right?
Helvetica, yeah.
That's the standard. Yeah.
Well, Helvetica was a modern threatening typeface when it first came out. When I went to college, I went to a place called University of the Arts, formerly Philadelphia College of the Arts in Philadelphia, and it's run by a bunch of, or was run at the time by a bunch of Swiss educators and designers. So it's based on the international style, the stuff you would see if you went to the Netherlands or something like that, where the European style kind of took over American corporate identity in the 50s and 60s. And so things started to really change into the clean corporate styles we have now. That background, Helvetica was like, what is this? It was new and exciting and clean. And now it looks so mundane to me. You see it a mile away, even people who don't follow design.
Awesome.
This could be grinding home. Sorry.
Thanks for the font talk, Al.
Yeah. No, we actually, excuse me, but we've actually gotten pretty into fonts in the past year. Working with our designer. Like before a year ago, I never knew how important they were, and then now I'm looking at every single thing I look at. I'm like, oh, what font is that?
Yeah, for real though.
Fonts are so good now. You can actually use a font as your logo. They're designed so well, and there's so much variety. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, for everyone that's listening to the podcast, that last 2 minutes might not have been the most exciting, but
unless that's what you're into,
right?
That's another podcast.
So going back a little bit to Spotty Dog, what is something you guys have failed at and later overcame?
In our current business or in life in general?
Either or.
All right.
We struggled with this to think about what do we want to say.
Yeah. Failure to me is coupled with mortification. And so I was out of college, and this is radio friendly, by the way, or podcast friendly. I was going to get this typesetting job in design, and they said, do you know the MCS CompuGraphics system was this thing that graphic art houses used before the Macintosh. They said, do you know the system? And I had worked on it a few times. They said, yeah, I know the system. I didn't know they based everything they did on that system. So I started my first day, and for 4 hours, I pretty much stared at the screen and tried to get it to work. And they said, why don't you come in the office? I come in the office. They had a check for me for 4 hours, and they fired me on the spot the first day. Wow. And my takeaway was, don't overstate your knowledge. Either when you're talking to people or, everybody states on their resume to put in the best possible light. But when you overstate your capabilities, there's always the chance where you could get caught, and I'll never forget that feeling. So that's my story.
But I mean, I will also say that when we first started the bookstore, we were winging it a little bit. And so maybe you also need to try things, even if you're not the most comfortable with them.
Yeah, that's true. Calculated risks. Where we started the bookstore, we didn't have to borrow $250,000 to do it. So our exposure, we would have lost money, but our financial exposure overall wasn't that huge. So yeah, it was a risk. It was an investment of time, and it was an investment of our own money. We didn't know how it was going to turn out. We didn't know it would take on. It's kind of an institution in town, and I'm not saying that bragging. It's that you just think we don't feel like it is. It's really weird where you have this kind of idea. Okay, a bookstore, and then her uncle says, "Oh, how about beer?" And then we did beer and wine, and then it becomes this local institution. And that wasn't what we set out to do. And we don't hang out at our own bar. We're still kind of private people, and we just we're pretty chill. And it's a weird feeling that you run into people in even foreign countries or down New York City, and oh yeah, I've been there. I've been to your place. It's really amazing and humbling, and we're pretty hands off, and we let the employees and the customers dictate the flavor of what the place is like. It belongs to them.
That's so cool. I wish we had a place like that.
Mm-hmm. And kind of,
you can do it.
Yeah.
You should start it. Go for it.
Hey, I mean, we might have to. Yeah. Going off of that, what is one thing you guys wish you would have known when you started?
I wish I would have known how to keep my books in an appropriate fashion. And I still don't know how to keep my books in an appropriate fashion.
Do you mean your financial books?
My financial books.
Oh.
My books that are on the shelves are fine. My QuickBooks is like a festering horribleness that I just can't. I mean, whoever's listening from the government, I pay my taxes fully every year, and they're good in that way. But like, it's such a struggle for me every year. So I guess I should have hired a bookkeeper earlier rather than later. Because I go in for a regular shaming from my accountant every year who's like, "What have you done?" And I'm like, "I don't know what I've done. I don't understand how to do this." So, I mean, that's like my hugest nemesis. And I wish I had known that. I guess I also wish I would have known, I wish I would have been better at delegating originally. But once you have kids, you're forced to delegate things, and that's what happened. And so now I'm better at delegating. Putting responsibility on other people and not doing it all yourself.
That's pretty important.
For me,
it really is. Balance. Balance, as they say.
When we opened, I was a behind-the-scenes subtle control freak, and I agonized over every interaction I saw an employee have, and I'll pull the employee aside and say, "You really shouldn't say that to them. You should say, they're new in town. You should really offer to explain to them what's around town and stuff like that." And I definitely a micromanager, maybe a pleasant one, but I learned to back off, to let some things go, have kind of a barrier for what's important and what's not, and whatever is on one side of the barrier, it's actually not that important. And same with being in business with my life partner is, just contribute what I do best, which is, design and promotion and stuff like that, help out with big decisions. And we have a lot less arguments now just because we support it in ways that we're best at and back off in ways that we're best at.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. What would you say is each of your greatest strengths?
Well, I think Alan's greatest strength is that he is willing to take risks much more than I am. So if like this decision was left to me, there wouldn't be a Spotty Dog because I would just be like, no, this is too much. I can't. It's too stressful. But he's willing to dive in and just be like, of course we can do it. And then my strength is I dive in with the realism after we commit to do it and kind of do all the nitty gritty law finding, find the distributors and do all the things. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice.
We're a balance of practicality and daring.
I would come up with the idea that we can invade France through Normandy in 1944. all of the logistics and making the whole thing happen would be Kelley.
Got it.
Good analogy. I like that one.
I would help behind the scenes, which is just a great leader that way.
So if you guys weren't at Spotty Dog and we were around New York, what is one other spot you would recommend?
So you're looking for a bar or just in general?
A bar, a bookstore, both, all the above.
All the things. Oh God, there's so many good bars and books. If you were around where we are, and you wanted a brewery, Suarez gets pretty great.
Suarez is one of the nation's top microbreweries, and they are located about 12 miles south of Hudson on Route 9 on the east side of the river.
Mm-hmm.
Near on the way to Hyde Park, the FDR home, and so about an hour and a half north of New York City.
And there's constantly people just queued up to get growlers filled and get beers in there.
They don't have a restaurant; they just have a tap room. But
only.
The vibe there is great.
It's wonderful.
There's I got to plug these guys. There's a series of pizza places called Four Brothers that are everywhere in the upper Hudson Valley. And they have one of their places down in Amenia, New York, which is just south of Millbrook, near the Connecticut border. And they have a drive-in there, along with their pizza place. And we go there all the time. So you can go there, order pizza to your car, along with drinks and beers and wine. They'll bring it to your car. And you park in backwards, open your hatch, and you can watch a movie. And
they have charging stations if your car goes that way.
They'll jump you if you're
if your car dies because you can't figure out how to do that thing while you're watching the movie. They'll come jump your car. Our daughter had her birthday party there, and they put her picture up on the screen, said happy birthday.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
The pizza's pretty good. The Greek salad is delicious.
We love the Red Dot.
That's like old school Hudson. It's so good.
Everyone says, you want to know everything that's going on in Hudson, go to the Red Dot at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bar and restaurant near us.
Yep.
Right on Warren Street, which is the main drag in Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, I don't want to blank because I love everyone.
I know. It's all good. All of Hudson. Everything comes to Hudson.
I mean, Hudson used to be, they had it at the height. Hudson started in as a whaling
port.
It was safe from British being harassed by the British Navy. So it's 120 miles up the Hudson River. They would drag whales up there and process whales for the whale oil in Hudson. So with a port city, you get prostitutes and sailors. So it has this sordid past. And then in 1985, you started having gay couples come up from New York and refurbish a lot of the
85.
rundown buildings.
No.
1985, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm still
all the architectural, all the architectural detail was there, and antique stores started opening. And then it became an antiques capital for the next however many years. So at the top, there was about 160 antique stores. So there's been several different lives of Hudson, and even since 2005. And now there's a lot of art galleries, a lot of restaurants, a lot of hotels, Airbnbs, retail stores.
I mean, it's really just a quaint, walkable downtown.
Yeah.
And you can take the train from New York. It's easy.
What's wild is during COVID, since March of 2020, there's a huge amount of unfamiliar faces walking around who escaped New York and are kind of holding up in Columbia County, which is pretty rural. Hudson is a city, but it's only about, it's 2 square miles and about 7,500 people. And the rest is,
that now. It's like under 7.
You go 10 minutes outside of Hudson in any direction, you're going to see cows and barns. So it's a pretty great place because you have a little bit of city life, and then you have country life and hiking and nature in any direction.
That Four Brothers sounds crazy. I've never heard of anything like that at all.
Was it eatdrinkplay.com?
Eat, drink, play, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you search for Brothers Drive-In Amelia, you'll get it. But it's great. And, you can't go to movie theaters right now, but you can go to the drive-in. So.
Oh, it's playeatdrink.com. And that's the one location where they have the drive-in. And it's really cute. And they've done a lot of design and signage there. And it's pretty fun.
It's fun.
I feel like there would be some legal issues there with serving alcohol to a car that has people in it, and it's probably on. Like they're operating a motor vehicle being served alcohol.
I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about how awesome it sounded.
If you drive to a bar, you're going to be operating a vehicle, you know.
Yeah, as long as you're not in motion. You have a designated driver.
As long as you're parked.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I was just wondering about that. I was like, interesting.
So do you guys serve any like food or any hors d'oeuvres or anything along that realms at Spotty Dog?
In New York State, if you serve alcohol, you are required to serve food of some kind. Oh. So we generally have chips and salsa, bean dip and pita, empanadas. We have cookies made by the local drag queen. We have cheese plates from Old Hudson, which is across the street from us.
Nuts and olive platters.
Nuts and olives and snack type things. We don't have a kitchen, so.
Yeah, like our beer license is beer and wine. With our food license, we can pretty much unwrap stuff and heat it up. We don't do any. We don't do any cooking or prep other than slicing things.
Very cool. Good to know though that you have to serve food with beer and alcohol. So
it's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to offer it. So, there used to be this bar in Hudson that was like they would have drag shows and dance parties and all these things. And their food that they offered, they had a plaque on the wall that said, what was it? Healthy choice, chicken and broccoli, frozen dinner, $24.95.
And it was literally in the freezer in a cardboard box.
And it was literally in the freezer in a cardboard box in case anybody decided they really needed that food. So, you must offer it, but, that's, wide open to interpretation. At least it was back in the day.
Or in college, there was this pot in Philadelphia. They had a crock pot that would go all night, every night, and with just hot dogs floating in it on
dirty
set to
water
boil.
Dogs.
And I don't know if anyone ever bought one, but they would just throw hot dogs in there, and they would just be bubbling away.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Somebody before was just real drunk and just had to eat one.
Yeah.
Had to have a hot dog. Probably the same hot dog from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And hot dogs aren't the best quality to begin with. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I love a good hot dog, though.
Oh, I love a good one. Like an all beef, park hot dog from the stadium or something. Those are good.
Yeah.
I cannot with this conversation right now. We have been having this discussion in the office all week because Joey is afraid of mechanically separated meats. So like a hot dog or like a sausage patty.
Right. I can
really afraid?
Like he's scared.
Not actually afraid. I just don't like my meat that is supposed to be beef made out of chicken. It just doesn't sit right with me.
Or if it's a sausage, you don't know what from the animal is going in there.
And
I understand.
Oh man, I love sausage.
Me too.
I love sausage too, as long as it's not turkey or something like that being thrown into it as well.
Oh,
I
right.
see.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But Frankie's been making fun of me for a week or two.
Yeah, definitely. I was like, how much stuff is probably processed and they just don't say it on the packaging.
I try not to think about it.
All right.
Guys, I don't want this to end in a lawsuit, but I'm going to start a podcast about fonts and mechanically separated meats.
Honestly, I mean, we could probably talk about that for a decent while. We do at the office.
Yeah, I almost don't want this to end.
It's like magic right now.
That's funny.
Oh, man.
So are you guys getting any of this hurricane thunderstorm? Because it's been hitting us pretty hard this last few hours.
No, we did yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was, I don't think it was to do with the hurricane or tropical storm, but it was, we definitely had some severe weather.
We had tornado warnings.
Yeah, there were tornado warnings. And I don't think any touched down, but people put up video and you definitely saw the
dark and spooky.
Swirling clouds that were pretty much the step before an actual tornado touched down.
Yeah. And we were all good. It rained a bit.
I don't know if it's related.
Are you guys
or not,
actually
but...
are you going to lose power?
Oh no, we're good. Ours it's usually pretty good. It's not quite that bad anymore. It's been on and off. I don't know if it's from the hurricane or not, but it hit pretty hard for a few minutes.
In the earlier years of when we opened, there were blackouts often in town, and the good thing about beer is it's pressure based, so we could still serve beer during a blackout. So we just light some candles, and people would come in. It was kind of nice.
Atmospheric.
Yeah,
that might be fun every now and then.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, every now and then.
Yeah.
Not more than that.
So if you guys had a hangover recipe, what would it be?
I've not learned anything. Well, here's the thing. Just drink a lot of water before you go to sleep if you're not too drunk to remember to do that.
God, I was about 11, my daughter's age, and my grandfather warned me about hangovers.
Get out of town.
He did. He said, it wasn't graphic. He just said, listen, he said, it'll feel like somebody screwed on your head backwards. So don't do it. Like, no, my George.
Sure. Oh.
My mother's father. It's good advice.
Yeah.
I mean, my last hangover, it was on a New Year's Day, and I spent the entire day in bed of that year. And I kind of vowed, maybe I didn't say it to myself, but I just thought, God, I can't waste a day like this anymore.
You guys are young, so you can still bounce back. We're old, so we can't bounce back anymore. So it's just we don't have it. We can't help you.
Yeah, but I mean, earlier on, the benefit of a hangover is if you can sleep it off, and so you could wake up at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and
go to brunch.
The worst parts are over. But as far as a cure,
no. God,
you want greasy food, and you get it, and you're fine. It stays down, but I can't think of any kind of cure other than the closest I have is drink a pint or 2 of water, slam it, even if you're not interested in it, before bed, and a couple aspirin.
No, you're not supposed to take aspirin if you're drinking alcohol.
No, that's what worked for me. And I use the water thing I do to this. If I've had too much, I'll pound some water because one of the issues, I'm not a doctor, but one of the issues is dehydration. I just know my hangovers are less bad when I've had a lot of water.
Yep.
What have you guys learned?
Yeah, do you? What's yours?
I mean, I definitely go the greasy food route. Helps for like 10 minutes and then you feel like crap again. I used to be able to sleep it off. Don't have much time to do that anymore. So I kind of just wake up, drink some water, eat some greasy food, and then live with it the rest of the day.
Hope for the best.
It's like COVID. We're all in this together.
That's right.
Exactly.
There is no cure.
Sharing knowledge.
All right, but the real hangover recipe though is wet socks and 4 eggs.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
I thought there was like something behind that.
No, I'm just kidding. Pedialyte. Pedialyte. Pretty much, yeah. People do say that though. They say like if you go to bed with like wet socks on, I don't know why that would ever matter, but I've heard that.
I've not heard that one. That's like, yeah, that is new for me.
It won't hurt you, but yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah.
You're aware of you put 1 foot on the floor, it stops the bed spins in most cases.
Really? I've not heard that one.
Try that. If your bed spins are like, if they're way, if they're super spinning, it may not stop it. But for the most part, it gives you kind of literal grounding to stop the bed spins.
Oh, you've tested this.
Yeah.
Huh?
Makes sense in theory.
Curious now. I might have to drink tonight to try it out.
Yeah.
That's funny. So what is the most thrill-seeking thing that you guys have done?
I don't do thrill seeking. Open a bar bookstore.
I don't know. You're thrill seeking. You'll go to the Salvation Army and find some amazing vintage or super high-end piece of clothing that somebody's estate discarded and it's worth a ton of money, and you just find that stuff.
Yeah, but that's thrilling for me, but that's not like jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah, right. I do cliff jumping now and then, but nothing that is life threatening. I got too much on the line to never. I've always wanted to skydive, but I won't at this point. But I would enjoy having done that.
It's actually safer than driving a car.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're boring.
I don't know. I feel ever since 9/11, and I know it's been years and years, but I feel like going into New York City at any point on public transportation
it's pretty thrill-seeking. Yeah, could be.
I always daydream, like, God, what if something happens today? And yeah,
I mean, cliff jumping is pretty intense from what I've seen or heard about it.
Yeah, we were up on this in Lake George a while ago, and they had a 15-foot cliff jump, which is almost nothing. And I was looking for this. There's a 30 or 45 or 60 footer, and we had this guy who we paid to give us a boat tour of the lake because he knew all the local swimming holes and stuff. He said, "I'll take you to the 15-footer." I'm like, come on, I want to do the 60-footer. And so we went to the 15, and I could barely jump off that.
See, so lame. Over
having
here.
not done it, you don't know what rocks are under the surface. He's like, nah, just go. It's fine. But still, your mind wants to do it, but your body just stops you because you think.
Oh, I agree.
Your body knows better.
I've actually been skydiving, but as far as cliff jumping, I'm always scared that there's going to be a rock or something. Like when you're skydiving, you can see the whole 15,000 feet below you. When you're jumping off of a cliff, you can't see anything.
We also had 2 kids. That feels like
oh god. Well, yeah.
A thrill-seeking adventure with the thrills aren't what you think they would be. They're in different places than you thought they'd be.
Yeah.
I want to bring it back now to Spotty Dog. Tell us a little bit about the building that you guys are operating in, and give us a little bit of the history there.
Yeah, it was the home of the C.H. Evans Hook and Ladder Fire Company. Hook and Ladders do the rescue. Pumper companies do the water and fire suppression. So this was a hook and ladder, so rescue. C.H. Evans started in 1803. They were in that building starting in 1899 when it was built, in our building, until 2002. And we had about 7 firehouses all over Hudson that were in different neighborhoods. That's because you would have volunteers in the fire companies. They would sleep at their homes. They would run to the fire companies when there was a fire in certain neighborhoods. So the firehouses are spread in different neighborhoods. We got one of them. So the building was built in 1890, and the fire company was in there. And then in 2002, they consolidated all of the local fire companies into one brand new one and slowly sold them off, the smaller fire companies, one by one. And so in 2002, the C.H. Evans Hook and Ladder left for the consolidated firehouse. And in 2005, we opened. So it was the home to firemen for just about 100 years. And there are a lot of photos of the firemen in the building having their different meetings or holiday parties and things like that exist. We haven't done anything with them yet, but it's got a pretty rich history. Mm-hmm. So when we first opened, we went to the fire company. Oh my God, it was very emotional for these for the men and women associated with these fire companies to leave their homes, which is these firehouses, and consolidate with these other companies that they were rivals with. And so we went to talk to the C.H. Evans company. We said, listen, we're going to have an open bar for you guys in our first month of opening. We want you to come down. We feel like this is your place as much as ours and your home. And so they came out, and oh God, they had a lot of them were retirees of the fire company, and they had great stories, and it was a great night. So also in the building history, I'll let you do the C.H. Evans part.
So C.H. Evans, who the firehouse is named after, is my great-great-great-grandfather. And he was one of the brewers or owners of C.H. Evans Ale, which was widely distributed ale in the United States prior to Prohibition. Yeah, when Prohibition came, my family put the brewery in mothballs, and my great grandfather said, like, this is only going to last a little while. Don't worry, we'll be back brewing in no time. And of course, this stretched on way longer than he thought. So they ended up retaining the logo and the name and all of that, but selling the brewery and all the equipment and things that were in there to what may or may not have been a bootlegging gangster who was bootlegging out of there for, I don't know, a year or two before they got caught by the feds. And then the building got burnt down under really suspicious circumstances.
The factory building.
Yeah, the factory building.
Yeah.
So, there's no brewery building anymore in the town, but they still have the name on their firehouse, which is nice.
Yeah. So when people visit, they have 2 questions. One is, where do the firemen sleep? And number 2, where's the pole? And since it was a volunteer fire company, the men and women would sleep in their homes. And then when the fire alarm rang, they would run to the firehouse, get in the fire truck, and go. So
hence no pole.
They slept in their homes, and there was no pole needed. They would just barrel down the staircase, and it's the squeakiest staircase probably in the world
because it's 100 however many years old.
So you can't sneak up on anybody.
No, you can't sneak up on anybody.
That being said, well, that's some great history. But one question that's a fan favorite that we always love to ask around here is, do you have any good, crazy ghost stories? And it's a pretty old building, so let's see.
Well, our first employees when we opened swore there was a ghost.
It was weird.
You think?
Like, I don't believe in ghosts, but I love the idea of ghosts. And so I was open to hearing about it. And it was a lot of fun.
They named him Jeffrey.
Yeah. Things would be misplaced or lost. More than just human incompetence. I thought that was things would just disappear. And so we attributed it to a ghost named Jeffrey. It was a fireman.
But that's about what we have. I don't have any other ghost stories, do you?
I'm thinking.
The Hudson has to have. There's like a ghost hunting group in Hudson.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
It's an old town started when, the 1600s?
No,
1700s.
Middle 1700s.
Yeah, so there's a lot of history and
there's probably a lot of ghosts.
About ghosts.
All right. Come check out Hudson, do some ghost hunting.
Definitely.
We could hook you up with the ghost hunting guy.
Heck yeah.
Led by Bill.
And I do tours of the cemetery in my spare time, so I could give you the tour of the cemetery.
Oh, really? Is there any like super famous person located there, or any super famous people?
No, there's not anybody super famous. There's local famous.
Okay.
There's two ladies that survived the Titanic. They're very cool.
That's pretty.
What else? Who else is on the tour? Oh, I guess the most famous guy is the partner of the guy who invented the Singer sewing machine company.
Hey.
And so that's like it's like a really good story because this guy was like the money guy and the organizing guy, and the Singer guy was like the insane inventor, crazy guy.
Like a fat womanizer.
Like a big fat womanizer.
And his paintings look like that too.
Yeah, and he looks like those old paintings of like the
like Louis the 14th.
Like Louis the 14th or something is what his paintings of him look like. And he just, that Singer guy was supposedly had like 25 kids by like 6 different women and just was like, yeah, he was a baller.
Yeah.
And this guy who's buried in the cemetery is like the son of the partner of that guy. And he had like a really colorful history too. So
I have a witch story.
A witch story?
Oh, yeah.
I was actually going to ask about that. So that's funny.
I don't know this. All right, go ahead.
So we had a regular who I ended up doing some design and consulting work with, because you have all kinds of New York professionals who live in town as well as farmers and stuff. So it's a really good mix.
Witch.
It's a witchy story, though.
All right, go ahead.
So Kelley and I had our first kid, and we decided to have 2, and so we were at the point where okay, I got to take a pregnancy test, blah blah blah, and it was in that very early stage. It was like July of a number of years ago, and Kelley got up in the morning and she said, "I'm pregnant." Okay, cool. We had issues before with getting pregnant and miscarriages, and we talk about it freely because no one talks about it, and it's potentially a big issue. But there was a genetic issue, and so we had several of them. So she said she was pregnant. This wasn't cause for celebration because we felt we had a long road
Because who knows?
baby was viable enough where she was actually pregnant, so we didn't run out and tell everybody. So she says that at breakfast. So I go into work and I meet with my this person I'm talking about, and she says, we exchange pleasantries. Good morning. She said, "Can I ask you a really weird question?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Is Kelley pregnant?" This is the same day, and I said, "You can't tell anyone this, but yeah, she had a positive pregnancy test this morning." I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, I had a dream that you had this overcoat and you were hiding this child under your overcoat, and you showed it to me briefly, and you said, 'Don't tell anyone. You can't tell anyone.'" I said, "Oh wow, that's really crazy. Please don't tell anyone." And so this baby ended up being our daughter Juliet, and so 9 months later, Juliet's born. So the pregnancy took. It wasn't a miscarriage. Juliet came out happy and healthy and all that. So I see this person after Juliet's born, and she said, I said, "Well, this is the baby that was that you
your dream about.
Had your dream about. So it's amazing. He goes, oh, that's so great. I said, and she was born on my birthday. My birthday is April 12th. Juliet was also born on April 12th. And I told this person that, and she went white, and she said, that's my birthday too.
Wow.
Really weird. It was mind blowing.
Okay, I just kind of got some goosebumps. Not gonna lie.
That's like better than any ghost story we've heard.
Yeah, that's really good.
We win.
That's a really bizarre coincidence, like crazy.
Yeah.
So I she isn't witchy, but I think that's kind of witchy.
Yeah, that's very.
That's wild.
Oh, so all three of us have the same.
Worth
birthday.
it.
Does Hudson have like a history of like witches or anything like that?
Salem.
Yeah, like Salem.
We have a history of prostitutes. That's all.
The environment gives you that. Because I was out in New Mexico, and there's these, when you see these anthills out in the desert, they eat the vegetation out from the anthill in a perfect 360-degree circle. And you see that in the middle of nowhere, and you start thinking geometry and UFOs. And there's more UFOs sightings in New Mexico. Not substantiated, just people see them, or say they see them, than anywhere else in the country.
Yep.
And so that said, in Hudson, it's a port town on the river at sea level. And so on many days, the fog comes in off the river, and it's super spooky. And I think...
And things are old.
Yeah, and things are old and creepy. Yeah. And the lamps have a halo around them. And so with any kind of spooky place, it generates its own story and persona. And so Hudson's like that. It's definitely a spooky port town, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely got to visit.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
So can you guys serve drinks right now, or is there a state law where you can't, or ordinance?
Well, technically we can, but lots of studies have shown that one of the worst places you can go in terms of catching coronavirus is sitting in a bar. Also, because our bar sits basically right up against where you would be looking for books, there's not any way we could social distance with shoppers and drinkers. And so right now we don't have any drinkers, but we do have shared streets in Hudson, which is allowing businesses to have tables and things for sale and food in the parking spots in front of your store / restaurant / bar. And so hopefully within the next couple of weekends, we'll get that together and we'll be able to have some drinks outside.
Is it like a open container policy where like you can just walk around the street?
There's still open container laws. Yeah, we can't. No, you can't.
We wish it was more like, Bourbon Street where people could walk around with their drinks. But unfortunately, I thought that was going to be a positive outcome of COVID. But it's not.
Well, initially, the governor did allow, even if you had only an on-site consumption license, you could sell drinks to go, like no restrictions. It had to be with food. So like the people with the frozen dinner, you could like throw some pretzels in the bag and the drinks in the bag and say, here you go. And people would be like, yeehaw, I'm going to go and have this. And I'd be like, look, I'm telling you, there's still open container laws here where you can't do that. Well, what if I want to do? I'm like, hey, you're an adult, but I'm just telling you could get arrested and that I'm telling you the law so that I don't get in trouble. What you do 1 block away from here is your business and not mine.
So we've seen local places, at least one local place, get busted by the state liquor authority, and they lost their license temporarily. And we don't mess with that. The fines are in the thousands of dollars. One thing about Kelley's background in insurance and loss prevention and a safety consultant is that we do everything by the book. It doesn't pay to mess around. If you do mess around, most places probably wouldn't get caught, but you have some jerk who has a beef with you. Yeah, they could report you to the state liquor authority, and you're screwed. So the rules change with COVID. They change every week or so, or every couple of weeks, and we're playing ball with that until looking forward to a full opening when everyone's safe. So the customers are ready for us to open. We're not ready to invite all that in yet, and we're fortunate to be able to wait it out and not worry about going out of business or having a landlord double our rent because we don't have a landlord. It's nice.
Right. And from some other podcasts we've had, we've actually seen in a few different cities them actually pass ordinances for at least like the temporary where you can like open container laws, but just for the next like 6 months or whatever it is. We've actually seen that happen in a few different cities. So that'd be nice if they kind of made it more mainstream and allowed for more other cities to do that as well.
Yeah, we'd love that. It would. I think it would bring more joy than problems if that was the law.
That's what it seems like. Yeah, just because that's such a big like part of like society and going out and social validations, hanging out with your friends and drinking and loosening up after a hard day, whatever it is. Just the current constraints are not ideal for really anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a hard go. I know we are in an extremely rarefied, excellent situation where we don't have a landlord. We're financially good. And I know a lot of, bars, restaurants, bookstores don't have that same luxury. So we feel very lucky.
Yeah, many places don't have 3 months worth of expenses or they've already burned through it. So you're going to see a lot of closures. Yep. In cities like New York City or any large city in any state, I think some independent businesses are going to have to be subsidized if they stay open because the rents will be cost prohibitive to open a small shop anymore.
Right. Winter's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine in some bigger cities like New York where rent could be, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month and you're out of business for, 6, 7 months. That could be $50,000 just in rent, not to mention you have no income.
Yeah, and to put that in perspective, in Hudson, there are rents that are $2,500 to $3,000 just on our main street. So in New York, you're talking even $30,000 a month for
wow.
So I'm looking forward to cities realizing that if you want that kind of charm and lifestyle, there's going to have to be some kind of break so these businesses can survive. If you want your cupcake shop, they're not going to sell enough cupcakes to make the rent. They're not.
Yep.
No way.
So we're pro bookstores. We're also pro independent business. So I hate to see anyone close. We both do.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a reason why New York has just the best bars and just like really the best bars like in the world? You look at all like these lists of like the top 50 bars, and most of them, if not like half, are in New York. It just blows my mind. Is there just like something different?
You mean New York State or New York City?
The state of New York, like Hudson, Buffalo has a couple, and then New York City obviously as well. Long Island, Staten Island.
All right, I'm gonna say that yes, there are amazing bars in all of these places, but I'm also gonna say that like print and publishing media is kind of consolidated in New York City, so that makes it that like the people that write these lists go to these places.
Yeah, so
we totally benefit from that. I'm not like
So we were in Esquire we were one of the top 27 bars in the United States. Completely blindsided us. We don't have a publicist. We get a lot of publicity like that we don't solicit. And yeah, it's great that we were chosen, and we're extremely humbled. But also, one of the editors frequents the Hudson area and knew about us. He never told us that, but we realized, we looked him up and we realized that he's got a place in the area. And yeah. So it's a proximity thing as well as
a fantastical stuff thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, that said, I just think, when you talk about New York City, at least, there's just so many influences and people coming from all over the place and a lot of freedom to be who you are there, as opposed to like some other places that I feel like people are just more creative or feel more able to do things that are unique and interesting.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I want to add that part of the aesthetic inspiration for the Spotty Dog was Kelley and I going to London when we were younger and doing kind of a pub crawl of as much as we could in the city. We were low budget traveling, and we love pubs. And so the Spotty is a reflection of the places we had been in Britain. And a lot of Brits come by, for the good beer, and they're like, what's the deal with this? Have you guys been to London? Well, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Good drinking town.
Yep. I'd advise to go to London and crawl your way across the entire city, or go to Belgium and crawl your way across that tiny country, because they have over 800 different beers. And it's an amazing beer trip. Beer, chocolate, and French fries.
And waffles.
And waffles, right.
Yeah, I plan on going to UK soon. Actually, my roommate last year in college, they were all from like the UK, Manchester, London area, and they want me to come visit. I haven't been able to yet, obviously, with everything going on, but hopefully in the next year or two, I'll be able to make my way around a few bars around that area.
It's a great
so
trip.
Wonderful.
Yeah, you can't miss.
And it's easy. You don't have to know another language or anything, but you're still in Europe. So, yeah.
Yep. They have they have a little bit of lingo that I had to pick up on, but over the course of the year, it's not much different.
Yeah.
Fries,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys seem like you're pretty well traveled. What is one place that you guys have been to in the past that you would recommend for others to go besides London?
Bruges.
Bruges is there's Bruges, Ghent, and Brussels in Belgium. Bruges and Ghent are destination cities. Brussels is the capital. We were told by seasoned travelers not to go. Don't go to Belgium and Brussels. It's a financial capital. It's boring. Go to France or go somewhere else. And so we went because we had friends there just south of Brussels. And holy crap, it was amazing. If you get there, I mean, there's cathedrals. There's very, very old architecture. You go to some of the cities like Ghent and Bruges, and they were financial capitals way, way back in the day, and they weren't destroyed by World War II. So there are amazing, just amazing places to look. And like I said, they have beers that go as far back as monasteries. They have beers that are 700 years old, or breweries, and you can tour them all. And it's some of the best beer drinking we've ever done. Fantastic. So I would recommend going there and just kind of cracking it open on your own. Don't go on a guided tour. Just do it on the cheap and take trains. It's a small country. That was probably we knew we were going to like it. We didn't know we were going to be blown away and enjoy ourselves so much going to Belgium. London, for sure, on a low budget, is totally doable, and probably more fun than doing it on a big budget, as far as we're concerned. Where else? I don't know.
Go to Maine. Eat some lobster. Have some beer and lobster.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm out of questions. Is there anything you guys would like to ask us?
Well, so so you're outside what city?
We are at Toledo, Ohio.
And so what's the good drinking there?
Oh man. I would say the closest is the Heights.
Yeah, the Heights.
You got to make that.
Now is the time, boys.
Can we invest?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few good places. I would say the Heights in downtown. It's a rooftop bar. It's pretty nice. They got some good food and good drinks. Check
out our episode with them, by the way.
Cool.
And then also on Adams Street, it was one of the first streets in the United States, I believe, where they actually had the open container law. So there's a few good bars on that street: Manhattan's,
Wesley's, Georgie's, LGBT plus positive bar. Did a podcast with them. Check that out too.
Yay.
But yeah, definitely if you come through Toledo, visit Adams Street and the Heights, and that'll get you a good little feel for what Toledo is.
Yeah.
You guys are all not that far. I mean, I'm way farther out of college than you guys are, and not many people think about doing podcasts. A lot of people don't have the hustle to actually put it together. And and I know it's relatively new, but what's the backstory on that?
Oh man, Joey,
I guess I can do it. So
you guys got about an hour?
No, it's not quite. But so it all started about a year ago. Actually more than that, probably now, like year and a half ago. Yeah. We all got together. We were trying to build this app called Bar Crawl, which is actually almost done, but it's in like the backlog right now with everything going on. So our idea behind the After Hours podcast was kind of to promote the Bar Crawl application, which allowed people to not only schedule a bar crawl, but actually see the best bars in your area. Because we've noticed there's really no app where if you go to like New York, let's say, you can like, search on Yelp or something, but it's generally not the best bar.
Don't search on Yelp.
And the most defining feature is that incorporating like Google Play, or not Google
Analytics.
No, Facebook Places, and we're using Google Maps. So with those two, you can pretty much build the entire crawl like you're on your phone, right? You just use Google Maps, like ping where you want to go, different restaurants, and then from that view. Yeah. And from that view, you can see like what are their specials, when are they open, and then you can prioritize the list in whatever way you want, based on distance, location, what are you trying to spend, and then there's group functionality, so you can get in group chats with friends, and you can share your crawls, put them on Facebook, make them public, make private crawls and stuff like that.
So
it's great because you could have a dive bar crawl, you could have a gay bar crawl, you could have a high-end bar crawl.
Yep.
That sounds awesome.
Literally whatever you want. And so that was kind of like the backbone of like how we got together. And the After Hours podcast was kind of a way to get to know bar owners and kind of get into the industry, as well as just to, promote the application in general.
And also too, I mean, the business model behind it is that, SaaS products. So they spend X amount on a subscription, and then they get to promote their bar as like a featured bar of Toledo, New York, wherever you are.
Yep.
But really, like the After Hours podcast originally started out as us going to our favorite bars and finding out like their pain points, like what is their favorite thing about owning a bar, and how do we optimize the app to their liking,
Yep.
And yeah.
So that's pretty much the backbone behind the After Hours.
Yeah.
It sounds like fun. I mean, it's entrepreneurial and fun, which is really
It is.
If it's not fun, why do it?
And now throughout the past year, we have about 35 bars we need to go visit after COVID is over. So by the time everything comes back, we're going to have a pretty long road trip ahead of us.
You guys may not survive.
Yeah.
And unseat Yelp. I hate Yelp.
I always tell people with the Spotty, when it's not fun, we'll stop doing it. And it's still fun.
And that was just the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey for us. We pretty much put bar crawl on the shelf like as soon as COVID hit. It's pretty much almost completely developed at this point, React Native. But we just focus on the business now. So Winhouse Software, you've probably seen my email. That's our business, and we do just everything software agencies do.
App development, web development, design, a little bit of business consulting, kind of just everything around the whole application development process.
Digital marketing.
Yep, digital marketing, SEO.
Do one of you work on the design, or do you use an outside?
We actually have 2 designers in-house, and then we have a handful that we contract out as well. Frankie and I are not we're more business and business analyst related and business consulting related than on the design side. But we do have internal designers.
Great.
Yeah. But
good for you.
But we understand the design process after working with designers for, a year and a half now. And we've learned a lot from our designers as well as our contracted designers, just how to get an eye for design, grid layouts, and just so much stuff, fonts that I just never had any clue about before the last year and a half.
Go to like a bad website, you just instantly know now.
Yeah.
It's just so poorly put
right.
Yeah, there's no going back.
I always tell non-designers, they'll look at something and they can't articulate why it looks bad, but they just know it looks unprofessional, but they can't say why. And it's up to designers to articulate exactly why. And here's the 5 things that are wrong with it. But non-designers know intuitively what is good and what isn't. So, people, I always hear people be sheepish about it. Well, you're the designer. I don't know. Well, actually, you do know. And so, part of the job is to educate non-designers.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And that's kind of how we started off. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that looks good. He's like, why? I'm like, I don't know, but I just don't like the feel of it. And then so you getting like the words across to your designer that's, gradient or grid or the pixels off by 0.2 or anything, it's just
so funny. We were in the car yesterday, me and Dan and his friend wanted me to like roast this website. And I was on mobile and I absolutely just destroyed this website. I was like, this was not made mobile first. Like I have to scroll for 45 minutes to get to the footer. Footer does not have any contact info, no socials. There's no call to actions in the header. Like it was just so poorly put together.
Yeah. And that's kind of just what you pick up, working closely with designers. Yeah. Really changes your eye for everything.
Images were floating.
Yeah.
Font was Times New Roman. Wanted to cry. Like,
size 8.
Yeah, size 8.
Heading size 62 and subtitle 8. But yeah, love it.
Man, people are probably just so bored listening to us just
we might have to cut some of this ending part out, but it was still fun to talk about.
I don't know. I work with non-designers, they always say like, "Oh, I don't know what I want, but I'll know it when I see it." And what I always do is I'll show something really conservative to what they want, something that's what they want but really out there, and something smack in the middle. And then when you give people a range, they'll say, "Oh, well, yeah, we want it to be out there. I'm glad you did that." So that's a really good trick to get people, to get non-designers to articulate what they want.
Yep. So you don't have to design it 100 times over.
Exactly. Yep.
Well,
yeah.
Hopefully.
Once you do that a few times, you start to think about remedies, so you don't have to do it.
Yep. 100%.
So this is pretty much like a side note, but I was looking through like your portfolio, Alan, and I showed it to Joe, and he loved like a lot of the work. Side note, I don't know if you'd like to get on a call with him or something for like an hour next week. I don't know. He's probably pretty busy, but he absolutely loves just getting feedback from other people. So yeah, if you have time.
I was going to suggest that. I'd love to see what the app looks like and have a look at it. I don't know how valuable I'd be, but my site hasn't been updated in a few years at this point. But yeah, I would love to see what it looks like and and talk about it. That'd be awesome, just for fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We'll definitely.
Well, it's weird. You can say, "Oh, well, is this a freelance engagement? I'll need a down payment before we and then NDA.
NDA.
Not an NDA.
That's always the best.
That's the worst, dude. I hate that. You get a project that's like, it's just like a really bad idea, and they're putting like $400 into it, and they're like, "Yeah, you got to sign this NDA." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to sign that."
Or sometimes I'll get like after the fact, like, "Dude, I already know everything, and you want me to sign this?"
I understand in certain situations, but there's sometimes where somebody's like, their idea has been done 1,000 times, and they have $14, and then they're like, "Yeah, can you sign this NDA?" Like, I guess, sure, I'll sign it. I don't know what it's gonna do, but I'll sign it and send it back to you.
That's true. Yeah,
those are ridiculous.
Yeah, what I always say about business is it really just takes money. It doesn't take brains. So anybody can open a store or a bar or a restaurant or build an app. You don't have to be smart. You just need some money or expertise to make it happen. And then whether it survives is where the smarts come in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we got a pretty well-rounded team. Winhouse. So we have 2 senior developers. So we have 2 designers. One of them also does the media side of everything. So like this podcast, he does audio, he does video, visuals,
editing,
all that stuff.
Animations, everything.
Animations, yeah, really cool guy.
That's great.
And then Frankie and I do business, and then we just past that, we have just a big pool of contractors that we use whenever is needed. So that's kind of nice too. Being close to multiple universities, we have like almost like an endless supply of contractors.
Yeah, you got my email, so just get in touch whenever you want to talk. I'd be happy to. That'd be a fun side thing just to hang out and talk about what you're doing.
For sure, yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, I guess where can people find you on the podcast?
Socials.
Yeah, socials, website. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's a question. Where you can find us. We just looked at each other like.
I fell asleep during the talk of design.
We are www.thespottydog.com.
Yep.
Instagram is
at Spotty Dog Books.
And Facebook is Spotty
same
Dog.
Thing.
Yeah, Spotty Dog Books.
Twitter is probably the same thing, but I hate Twitter, so I don't know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, thank you so much for your time, guys. This has been fun.
All right, After Hours Nation. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at AfterHoursCast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.